It started like any other ordinary day on Earth. Late autumn sun filtered through gray clouds, the kind that made people clutch their jackets tighter and hurry along. The city buzzed with the quiet chaos of life. Horns blaring, voices murmuring, lives brushing past each other like strangers on a crowded train. No one knew that this day, this one simple day, would be the one they'd talk about in every corner of the galaxy for centuries to come. The day Deathworlders, humans, stopped playing nice. In the heart of it all was a boy, 17, maybe 18, lean with the sharp edges of youth, dressed in a worn hoodie and jeans with fraying seams. His name was Malik. He had headphones, head down, hands buried in his pockets as he stood in the packed subway car, swaying with the rhythm of the tracks. A quiet kid from the south side, Malik was one of those souls who blended into the background, watchful, polite, often overlooked. But what he did that day, the universe would never overlook that. Across from him, a pregnant woman stepped onto the train. She looked tired, really tired. Blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, hand resting under the curve of her belly. Her eyes scanned the car, full of exhaustion and maybe just a little fear. She didn't ask for help. She didn't have to. Malik stood immediately, gently tapping her arm and motioning to his seat. She hesitated, not because she didn't want it. Clearly she did, but maybe because she wasn't used to that kind of kindness. Or maybe she saw something in Malik's eyes. Respect, quiet strength, no judgment, no awkwardness, just decency. She sat down slowly, offering a small, tired smile. And then, after a moment, she reached into her bag. What she handed him was a small folded note, simple paper, handwritten. Malik took it without a word, tucking it into his jacket pocket without even looking. That moment might have passed like hundreds of other kind gestures that never make headlines. But this one was different. Because what was written on that note would change everything. Not just Malik's life, not just that woman's, but everyone's. That subway car would become the place of legend. Now, here's where it gets strange. Here's where it really begins. While Malik went on with his day, headphones back in, music low and eyes half closed, a sensor orbiting low Earth orbit caught something. A flicker. A gravitational anomaly. Too small to be noticed by the average satellite system, but just big enough to register on something buried deep in the basement of an abandoned Cold War facility in Colorado. A place the government had stopped checking. Or said they did. Something moved in the dark above the Earth that day. Not just moved, but watched, noticed. And whatever it was, it saw him. Saw what Malik did. Saw us. See, out there in the deep, in the places humans hadn't reached yet, there were beings. Hundreds of species. Thousands. Some peaceful, some brutal. Some so alien they couldn't even understand what a gesture meant. But they all had one thing in common. They knew about Earth. And they knew one thing about Earth more than anything else. That humans were dangerous, not because of their weapons, or their speed, or even their Deathworld biology, but because of how they are, how they care when no one's watching, how they choose kindness, how they'll take punishment, pain, and even death for someone they barely know. That's what made them terrifying. For centuries, the Galactic Council had quietly observed humanity from afar, whispering warnings in dark chambers and stalling any attempts at first contact. Too soon, they said. They're unstable, they insisted. Let the Deathworlders burn themselves out. But this act, the simple exchange of a subway seat and a folded note, was something they hadn't predicted, because something else had been waiting. A faction of alien species calling themselves the Witnesses had long believed that humans weren't a threat. They were a revelation, a key to something the galaxy had lost. And when one of their observers caught that moment on a cloaked drone hovering in low orbit, everything changed. Malik didn't know any of that, of course. He got off 3 stops later, pulled his hood up against the wind, and made his way home, like he always did. But he did read the note, and when he did, his legs almost buckled under him. It wasn't just a thank you, it was an invitation. A warning, and maybe a prophecy. In 4 short sentences, the note said, You don't know me, but they've been watching. You've been chosen. Don't be afraid, just be ready. No name, no contact, nothing. And that's when the men in black SUVs started circling his block. That's when the power flickered across the entire eastern seaboard. That's when 100 satellites blinked out of the sky for exactly 6 minutes. And that's when everything, every quiet whisper about humanity, every theory, every fear began to come true. The council called an emergency session. The witnesses began to move. And Malik? He was about to find out what it meant to carry the hopes of not just one world, but all of them. Because the day the Deathworlders stopped playing nice was the day the galaxy remembered why they should have never been underestimated. And it all started with a seat on a train. But the real question is, what's waiting for Malik on the other side of that note? You're not ready for what comes next. Malik stood on the corner of 82nd and Garfield, the wind cutting sharp through the concrete jungle around him. His fingers clutched the note so tightly the edges were bending. And even though the city buzzed on around him like it always did, sirens in the distance, footsteps on wet pavement, engines coughing in the cold, it all felt wrong now. Like everything had shifted sideways and the world was pretending it hadn't noticed. He glanced over his shoulder. SUV, same one from a block back, tinted windows, no plates. It hadn't turned. It was just there. He didn't run. He didn't have to. The kind of people who drove SUVs like that didn't chase you down on foot. They made the world shift around you. You just found out too late. He swallowed and kept walking, trying to act like his heart wasn't trying to beat its way out of his chest. The note felt warm in his hand now, like it carried its own pulse. That didn't make sense. None of this made sense. He thought about the woman again, how calm she was, how steady her eyes were when she handed him the note, like she knew, like she'd done this before. Back in his room, with the blinds drawn and the door locked, Malik spread the note out on his desk and stared at the words again. Simple, direct, but heavy. Each one hung in his mind like a weight. You don't know me, but they've been watching. You've been chosen. Don't be afraid, just be ready. What did it mean? Who was watching? Who chose him? Why him? He wasn't some genius, wasn't in the military, wasn't rich or powerful or connected to anything that mattered. Just a regular kid who kept his head down and tried not to give anyone a reason to notice him. But maybe that was exactly why they noticed. Somewhere out in the vacuum of space, in a station the size of a small moon hidden behind a rogue planet, dozens of alien species gathered in a sealed chamber, the air thick with tension and ancient politics. The Council of Observers had not met in emergency session in over 1,000 Earth years. Not since the fall of the Trelvaxi Empire. Not since humanity detonated its first atomic bomb and refused to kill each other to extinction afterward. They were supposed to. According to projections, Earth should have wiped itself clean by now. War, famine, climate collapse, economic implosion. The math had been clear, but it hadn't happened. And now, a human teenager had triggered a convergence event, the kind that the witnesses, those strange believers in human potential, had waited generations for. Are we sure it's him? Croaked a thin, feathered being with sharp, glinting eyes. He's nothing. Nothing, rumbled a low voice, from a being made entirely of translucent muscle and pulsing light, is what you think of all of them. But they always surprise you, don't they, Rektha? Across the chamber, a humanoid with eyes like shifting galaxies leaned forward. We have confirmation. A sublayer message was activated. The note was not ordinary. It was encoded with a hyperspace signature. Only one faction still uses those. The room went quiet. The witnesses. Back on Earth, Malik's phone buzzed once. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Get out of your house now. He stared at the message, hesitated. Then a second message followed instantly. They're already in the building. Don't take anything. Move. He didn't question it. Something in him had already accepted that the rules of his life were no longer the rules. He grabbed his hoodie, shoved the note into the front pocket, and slipped out the window just as the sound of boots echoed up the stairwell. Black boots. Coordinated. Not police. Not anything official. He dropped down the fire escape, heart thudding, and landed hard in the alley behind the building. He didn't stop, didn't look back, just ran. 3 blocks later, a door opened near a corner store and a hand pulled him. Inside, it was her. The woman from the train. Her hoodie was up now, and beneath it he caught a flash of something metallic along her collarbone. Tattoos or maybe tech, he couldn't tell. "You're earlier than I expected," she said, locking the door behind them. They moved fast. Malik opened his mouth, then closed it. "Who are you?" She glanced at him. "Call me Sarah. It's not my real name, but it'll do." "What is this? Who were those people?" She nodded to the table in the room behind her. "Sit down. You're going to want to hold on to something." He didn't sit. "Tell me now," Sarah sighed. "All right, you're being watched, not by the government, not even by humans. By something older, smarter, and a hell of a lot more afraid than they're willing to admit." She walked over to a panel on the wall, tapped something, and the lights dimmed. A projection filled the room. Stars, swirling galaxies, and then Earth, glowing softly in the middle of it all. "There's a war coming, not the kind you've seen on screens, not armies and flags. This is a war of ideas, of survival. And you—" She turned to him, voice quieter now. "You're the first trigger, the proof they were waiting for." Malik stepped back, eyes wide. "I'm just a kid." "Exactly," she said. "And you still chose kindness, when no one asked you to. That moment," she tapped her temple. "It echoed, through everything. Some species would call it a psychic disturbance. Others call it a soul burst. We don't have a word for it in English, but it's like reality felt what you did, and it mattered." Malik shook his head, trying to make sense of it all. "I gave up a seat. That's it." "No," she said softly. "You didn't just give up a seat. You gave up comfort. You gave respect. You saw someone who needed help and didn't hesitate. That's what they fear, that humans will stop just surviving and start leading." Malik was quiet for a long moment. The room hummed with quiet tension. "What happens now?" he asked. She looked at him and something flickered behind her eyes. Regret, maybe. Or sorrow. "You get tested." Malik stared at her. "Tested how?" But before she could answer, the building shook, a deep, low rumble that made the walls tremble. Sarah's face hardened. "They found us." And that's when the ceiling cracked open, and something not human came crawling through.